Recording and running Selenium tests. Let me show you a test case that I want us to automate. This test case will be based on a simple functionality of logging in into application that's called Orange HRM. It doesn't really matter what kind of application we use because it's a simple login procedure, but because the application structure is fairly easy and uh, very transparent for us to understand when it comes to Selenium ID recording, we're going to use this application. So you can find this application at www.hrm.partnov.com. And it's an application that allows HR to manage their personnel, their human capital. This application belongs to a group of ERP products, and today we will verify that logging into this application using administrator login can be done not only during manual testing but also can be recorded using Selenium IDE tool and can be run multiple times. So this is the interface for this application, and if I had to test this functionality manually, I will login name, which can be admin, and I will click in the field and enter password. This is password value for the password field. I will click login, and I will find myself on the home page of this application where I'm greeted as a welcome admin with the greeting welcome admin, which is one of the ways to verify that I'm being treated as a correct role for this project. I logged in as admin and I'm being welcomed as admin, so I'm assuming that I'm the right I have the right role in this application, and I'm verifying that I'm on the right page of this application. I'm not taken to the bug tracker, I'm not taken to the reports functionality, I'm taken to the employee list. I'm an employee list, and this is a default home page, index page for my application. So this is what I would do as a manual tester. I'm going to verify all these things, and then I'm going to use this logout button to go back to the original page, and I will complete my test. That will be my manual test to verify that if I enter valid information into login and password field, I will find myself on the right page and having the right role in this application. Now, I will probably do this kind of task multiple times. I will have to do it every time I have to go through a regression set of tests to verify that my basic functionality of login is working properly. So multiple times to execute this test case. Fairly boring for a human eye. That's the reason we want to make sure that we can automate testing of this application. So this is our test case. We want to ensure that valid user login is working properly in our application. We expect that Orange HRM index page is loaded. This is our home page, index page. We expect that correct username is displayed as part of greeting, welcome admin. And to achieve this expected result, we will have to go through the following steps. We're going to type in login into text box. We're going to type in password value. We're going to click on submit or login button, and we're going to verify that correct username is displayed. So these are our steps. Now let's see how will our tool handle those things. So first of all, I'm going to bring up this tool, and actually I'm going to create a new test case. So when I bring my tool for the first time, it's going to look like this. I'm going to put my tool, Selenium IDE tool, in my application and the test side by side so I can see both. I'm going to make them look nice next to each other. I'm going to modify my interface a little bit for Selenium ID so I can see as much as I can on both sides. I'm gonna record my script. Remember, we're gonna be using a technique that is called record and playback. So right now we're gonna be recording. So recording button is right here. We want to make sure that we click it and it's pushed back to allow us to record scripts. In some cases, when you install your application will be configured in a way that it starts recording right away. In some cases, you actually select when you're ready to record and when you're ready to stop recording. So the first thing that you check that the button is activated to allow you to get things recorded. So right now it's not ready to be recording. I'm gonna press it. Now I am ready. You see that it's pushed down. So when I put my mouse over it, it says now recording. Okay, so I prepared my tool. It's gonna start recording. I'm gonna click on login name and I'm gonna type in correct username. Then I'm gonna click in password field and type in password. As you can see, while I'm typing, my application's tool, Selenium IDE tool, is recording what I'm doing. It's recording what I just typed into the field that has admin value, and in a few seconds after I click login, it's gonna show us what was recorded in the field for the password. Then I clicked submit. So again, you see all my steps recorded here in Selenium IDE. Now I find myself on the page where I have to verify a few things. First of all, I want to make sure that there is this welcome admin message is being displayed. So to do that, I'm going to use another functionality of Selenium IDE. I'm going to highlight a welcome admin, making sure that I do not take too much space in front and too much space behind. And then I'm going to right click, and the option that I'm going to present will be to verify text present, which equals the welcome admin. There are quite a few options available for Selenium IDE to verify different things on different elements of the page. And if you want to see everything that is available for this particular element, it's dynamically generated for you, and it's being stored under Show All Available Commands option. So if you don't see what you're looking for in the short list, you can click on Show All Available Commands, and the big script, big list of all the options available to you will be presented. For our purposes, I need something fairly simple, fairly straightforward to verify that pattern welcome admin is being recorded. And when I'm ready to run the script, after I recorded it, I will have internal workings of internal mechanism of Selenium IDE comparing the pattern of welcome admin with whatever gonna appear here. So as you can see, verify text present command is listed here, and our pattern welcome admin is being recorded here. So our last step, if you remember it from the test case description, is to log out, which we're going to do. So Selenium IDE logged us out. We're back on the login page, and we're pretty much done recording our script. So since I'm done recording, I'm going to turn our recording off. So let's have a look at what we got recorded. We're going to concentrate on this part only. So we have, first of all, there's a base URL item here on the top of Selenium IDE. And as you can see, it records our URL, our base URL. It doesn't record the actual page where we landed, but it records our base URL, hrm.partnov.com. Here it is, hrm.partnov.com. So this is where we're going to have our scripts run and execute. This is what's going to open for us automatically. Selenium IDE does allow us to save information where we conducted recording, and this is being done in configuration section of Selenium IDE. Then once we get this base URL part, recorded, we move to the table source area of our tool. Table area of our tool shows us what was recorded in a form of a table. 3 tables, as you can see: command, target, and value. So what we have in the command section, command part of the table, command column, is the list of actions, what actually you conducted or what was done automatically by Selenium IDE. So the first step is to open very specific page that we typed into the address field, URL address field. We typed in hrm.partnov.com, and the application knew that we want to be on the login page, so it's added this information about login. Oops, move things around. So we found ourselves on login page. That was recorded. So we want the application to go to this base URL and then open this particular page if we're planning to start using it. Our next step was to go to login name field. Login name field is a label. You have something else recorded in the target field of Selenium IDE, and the something sounds like txt user name. We can easily figure out that txt is text and this is username. So we can read this script and understand that Selenium IDE recorded our action of typing into username field value of admin. When we look at the actual application, we know that the label on this field is called login name. It's not username, it's called login name. So information that Selenium IDE takes and puts in the target field doesn't come from the labels. It comes from HTML names. So Selenium IDE is going to be reading HTML names of the element and plug it into the target field. And admin is something that you typed in for this field. Next line is pretty much exactly the same set of actions but for another field. This is for the field called password. And again, password is a label for this field. The HTML name for this field is txt password, and we are typing password there. Then we clicked on something that is called submit. In this particular case, looking at our application, we know that submit is the HTML name of the push button that has a label of login. For some more complicated HTML pages, it's not going to be that easy to figure out exactly what element was recorded by Selenium IDE. But there are different tools that allow you to do that. But in our example, we can figure out that submit name is related to the login push button name. So the next step that was done after we clicked on this login button was to get our application to take us to the next page. And the next page was different. It was not a login page. It was another page. And Selenium IDE did not record this new page. It simply started confirming that on this next page you get certain information that is matching. So verify text present command was telling us that Selenium IDE recorded the pattern that we want to match next time we run this application script. So we recorded a welcome admin pattern. Here it is in the target area. As you can see, value area is very often left blank if there is nothing else that we need to use in this particular field. In some cases, we need command, we need place where we're going to be executing this command, and we need the actual value with which we will be executing or using this particular command. In case of verifying that text is present on the page, we only need to make sure that there is a command of verifying the presence of the text and the actual pattern itself. And our last step was to click Logout. And that was a link, as we can see. Even though it didn't look like one, it looked like any other element on the page. But again, Selenium IDE is good at this. It's good at recording details of the elements that you will be using. Now, we have our first script, and we will want to save it. Now, if you remember from the previous description that Selenium IDE is pretty much JavaScript and HTML, and you're going to have your test cases recorded and saved in HTML format. And that's exactly what's going to happen as a default. As you can see, we have fairly standard set of menu items: File, Edit, Options, and Help. And help, again, fairly standard, so is File and Edit. Options might be a little bit tricky and kind of specialized and specified and customized for each application. But File and Edit will have fairly defined list of options that are similar for different types of applications. So we're going to go to File, because we know that File menu usually has an option that defines saving procedures. And it does, but in addition to expected list of save options, print options maybe, you have quite a few additional things. And you can see things are clearly separated by the top part, by the bottom part, and by something in between. So the top part is pretty much relates to the test cases, while the bottom part relates to the test suites. And I did mention to you earlier that test suites are being treated completely different in Selenium, and that's important to remember, because when we create a test case, we will never use this set of menus. We're always going to be using this set of menus. Now, back to our simple saving process. We know the difference between save and save as. Because it's a new test case, we're going to save it as and give it a unique name. Now we're going to save our test case as Selenium Test. And what is very important to remember, that extension of our test case should be HTML. It will be saved in HTML format. It's also important to remember to save it as all types. So we're going to click it, save, and here we have our saved test case. Now, we're going to try to run our test case now that we saved it. Before we start running, we need to remember a few things. First of all, you see this lever that takes you from fast to slow. Well, because of various issues that we have in our networking, with our servers, with our environment, it's always advisable to get this lever to slow first. This is the first thing that you're going to do during test execution. You're going to put it on slow. Another thing that is very important is to remember which option we're going to use to run our test case. Again, the big difference between test suites and test cases. So we're going to use an option to play current test case. Always good to help Selenium IDE with running test case. So we're going to click on the top line of your test case. We're going to make sure that we're on the proper page, on the login page, and our lever is all the way to the right. And we're going to click on play current test case. See what happens. So as we're waiting for Selenium IDE to start working, we see things happen on both sides, within our application and on our Selenium IDE. So what we just did, we used a technique called record and play back. We just recorded the script and now we played it back. You can see that things got played fairly fast, even though we put it on slow motion. You can play with the speed with which your execution actually occurs. You can make it fast or slow, but the first time you execute your test case or you run your test case, you want to make sure that you run it slow to eliminate as many issues as possible. And another thing, as I said, to remember that you can play your current test case, not current test suite. So you observe several things that were happening on this side, on the Selenium IDE side of the screen. You observe that there was some color coding. Some areas, if I click out of the whole set of commands, put my cursor on the bottom below commands, you will see that majority of the lines are highlighted in very pale green, and one line, which is verified text present, is highlighted in dark green. It is color coding, and this color coding tells us what actually happened during test execution. Because open, type, click and wait, and click are commands that require some type of action, during execution, light green indicated that Selenium IDE simply completed the step, that it was done, finished. There were no problems opening, typing, clicking and waiting, and clicking. It's another story with verified text present. It's a verification point. It's your expected result versus actual result, if you use terminology of manual testing. So in manual testing, you have your expected result, and this is exactly what we did when we recorded verified text present. Now we execute our test case, and this dark green indicated that our actual result, where we actually located welcome admin pattern on the page, matched what we expected. So dark green indicated completion of the verification procedure. It's your expected result and actual result. If you verify things and things are correct, you're going to have dark green. If things do not match, your expected result is different from what actually happened. For example, there was a change in coding, and now your admin is being written with lowercase, not uppercase. So your test's going to fail, and this line going to be in pink. Something else is happening on the bottom. Your log is being written, and your log is telling you what was actually happened during execution. You have your step-by-step recording of events. You see a list of all the commands that happened during execution, and you see values and target. And since we do not have any problems, everything is black font on white background. If you had a problem that was highlighted right here, you would have red color here. So a few screenshots to go through what I just went when I was explaining. So to review it and to summarize it, you have to remember to make sure that your record button is pressed. Again, make sure that it's on. Remember where to find your Verify Text Present option. It's under right-click menu options. Remember that you have to stop recording by clicking on the red button, and when you start executing, this button should be off because you should not be executing and recording at the same time. Here are examples of verification points where it's dark green. You need to remember to put your lever to the right to make sure that you give your application and servers enough time to play things back in slow motion. Here's your color coding information. Now we're moving into another area, debugging. Wanted to show you this demo where things got wrong, where you have things that are highlighted in pink. So if everything is good, you're going to have dark green. If things start going wrong, you're going to have things highlighted in pink. Now, so far we were using a technique that is called record and playback. There is another part to this recording and playing back, is the ability to edit your script. And we actually have something in the script that I want us to edit to make sure that our script is better than it was originally recorded. As you can see, Selenium recorded one of our actions as click and another, this one recorded as click, and this one it recorded as click and wait. Click and wait, in general, any kind of and wait option allows user extra few milliseconds, not just the user, but the user in terms of the tool, to wait for the next step to get presented. So pretty much every single command in Selenium will be better and more robust and be more reliable if it had, instead of click, it had and wait option. So what we're going to do now, we're going to improve our script. We're going to make sure that this click option actually allows you to wait a few seconds to make sure you get to the last page. Here's this autocomplete functionality of Selenium IDE. We highlighted our click command and we get things presented to us at the bottom of the table view where we can edit things. So now we are in command field and we're going to start typing A. Expecting all the options that start with click A to be presented to us, and they are. As you can see, we have click and wait, click, add, and wait options presented. So we're going to select click and wait option and select that one, and pretty much our click turned into click and wait. So we just modified our original script that was recorded by Selenium IDE automatically. We're going to save our test case and we can run it again now. We want to make sure that we have our application available, our scripts available. Click the right button and observe Selenium IDE executing our script now that we modified it. We gave Selenium IDE and we gave our application a few milliseconds to be able to complete our click and wait. And here we are, everything again is successful, no errors. Now, I moved away left side of the Selenium IDE view because I wanted to introduce you to everything within the table view. But now I'm bringing this part back. As you can see, Selenium IDE has these two areas that you can move back and forth. And this is the name of our test case, Selenium Test, if you remember it. The bottom part can also be moved back and forth, but it has slightly different functionality. You can simply get rid of the text, but you cannot get rid of the actual space below the table command. A few other options that I want to show you. On the options menu, there are options about how you can modify your Selenium IDE on a very high level. I clicked on options and selected the first option from the options, which is also called options, and I went to General tab. The General tab contains information about timeouts, about encoding, and about a few features that you can set up by yourself and play with them if there is something that you find convenient. So first of all, you can set your Selenium IDE not to start recording immediately on open. If you unselect this button, you will have to press record button every time you want to record something. If you select this button, it's going to start recording for you automatically right away. Another option that is available is to remember your base URL, which is this one. Very handy option as well that allows us to remember the URLs on which you are conducting your testing. So that's a good one to have selected. Another option that is very helpful to have is record assert title automatically. You want to make sure that you find yourself on the right page. Remember our discussion that after you click on submit, you're not really clear that you find yourself on the next page. Selenium IDE doesn't tell you anything about transitioning to another page. Assert title automatically tells you that you are on the next page, and if you find yourself on the wrong page, it's gonna stop execution right away. So that's another very important feature that you can utilize in your scripting. You can get your development tools. You can have your absolute URL compared to relative URL recorded. You have this basic set of options here available for that particular version of Selenium IDE. As I mentioned earlier, different versions of Selenium might have completely different set of options, and it's actually expanding. New things are being added, so you can customize your environment, your IDE environment for your purposes. Another thing that I want to tell you about is about where to find information about commands. You already learned two things about Selenium IDE. You learned a technique that's called record and playback, and I also showed you how to edit your scripts. To make your editing more effective and more robust for your scripts, you do have autocomplete, which we already reviewed. Your command area allows you to, command target and value area allows you to enter information that you need. You also have an option to insert new commands and insert comments and do quite a few debugging things using right click menu. So when you are within Selenium IDE, right click presents you with the option to insert new commands, to do some activities related to debugging, and actually another feature is ability to execute one command at a time. So if you don't want to use a button to play the whole test case, you can execute a specific command by using this option of execute this command. Information about commands can be found in this drop-down box. Under commands, it has a list of every single command available in Selenium IDE, as you can see from A to W. You're also going to find this information under Help UI Element Documentation, and you're also going to find it on seleniumhq.org website. So you have three places where you can locate this information and learn more about Selenium IDE tool. Right, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed Selenium IDE. Have fun exploring this functionality.